Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining my podcast yet again. And I have a very special guest, friend, client. I don't know what else, other labels you want to give him. But it's my friend, Pierre Becker. Pierre Becker runs a company called SKEG. Pierre, thank you for agreeing to talk to me and talk to this podcast today. So, why don't you start off by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit who is Pierre Becker? Why did you start SKEG? Give us a little bit of context for today.
Started SKEG 2005, so now coming up for 21 years. So the kid is grown up, should have left the house already. It's got its key. It should be handling all its own legal consequences for all its mess it makes and stuff like that. I started the business. Lots of people ask, but I didn't start it because I thought I'm going to build this great thing. I didn't wake up one morning with an epiphany saying I'm going to build SKEG or anything like that. I was actually, for lack of a better word, running away from something, part of a fairly well-known startup, and then actually ran through quite a lot of successful stuff and bad stuff. And it formed quite a lot of the bits and pieces that I ended up doing. But I got into a place where I wasn't happy there. I saw some opportunity just to say, well, I don't want to be there anymore, but here's a part of the business that I can take along with me and service the original company that I was busy working for, service them back at cost with all their equipment and their staff, pay the staff salaries, and go and sell the spare capacity for money. And that worked. And then so I went on the last day of May in 2005, having only a salary on the 25th, I got paid my last salary. And on the
Right.
1st, I had 6 salaries that I had to pay by the 25th of June, and I had to make all that money there was no working capital. I did have staff there that were really well qualified. I did have a whole bunch of machines that I borrowed or went on permanent loan and used some of the little bit of spare cash to pay the first month's rent. And essentially, because we had this deal where we're servicing them back, it sort of washed our face for the first month or two. And then it just, we had that relationship, I think, for 3-4 years with them, but it dwindled out. And in that time, we just aggressively built
Wow.
business and got it. And then, so we did fairly okay. It was the 2000s. The 2000s were the glory days. Everything was.
Yes.
I mean, you could throw a brick at a pile of sand and a building would just appear. You could throw water on a concrete floor and trees would come up, and it was a fantastic time. It was very easy. And in the credit crunch came in 2008. That was interesting. Our business picked up then. Post that it dropped down again. But in that time, we basically just grew, and we probably still, to a large extent, do. If somebody pitches up here and they ask us a difficult question that nobody else can answer, we'll try it at least 3 times. And if we can't after the 3rd time, we'll tell you sorry. And so far, we haven't said sorry that we can't get the job done. Most of the times in those cases, we lose a lot of money, but we learn and we grow. So we grow. At one stage, I explained it to somebody like this, where our business is like a restaurant that doesn't have a menu. You can come in and ask for anything, and we'll figure out how to make it. And halfway through that dish, you can change your mind and and ask for something different, and we'll accommodate you. So obviously, that's not
It's
good.
a shocking business model.
It's a shocking business model, but it's a brilliant business model. If half your staff's learners or 3/4 of them are
Yeah.
learners, it's a great business model if you want to become good at everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Just
trouble.
for the guys who are seeing, what is it you do? I mean, so in a nutshell, what does SKEG actually
Yep.
do? What's its thing?
We play in the innovation space. We have people from inventors through to entrepreneurs, from startups to corporates coming and say, hey, listen, we've either got a problem that we need solving, or we've got a new idea, or we've got some brilliant plan. And we need you to help us take this idea and get it into market from
Mm.
like basic concepts, back of the napkin, cigarette box stuff, through to, is it actually sensible? Is it technically feasible? Is there product market fit? Is there revenue? Is it a one-hit wonder? Is it a scalable business? Is it going through into R&D, experimentation, tests, going into product design, alpha prototyping, going into certification of these products, going into beta trials in the market, and then going over into launch, start of manufacture, scaling in the market. And we have to tailor the offering to the customer because their challenges in startup is healthy dose of cash flow and cash and funding, healthy dose of heads all over the place and running around like mad people, trying everything, kicking, playing whack-a-mole with their product all over the place. So you have to accommodate all of this. So in our business, uncertainty is like the only thing that we can rely on to be constant. So we do great ideas, but we mostly do this in hardware. So if there isn't a physical component attached to it, electronic board, an enclosure, a mechanism, a device, a machine, a process, and something, then we're not your guys really. We do software, but mostly in support of the hardware, control, backends, dashboards, and stuff like that, but mostly in support of the hardware. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff over the years, lots of really cool stuff.
Amazing.
There's no real relationship between a good idea and a successful idea, or a bad idea and an unsuccessful idea. There's so many obstacles in the innovation space and the startup space, specifically in hardware, which is a really tough road, that to tell you why products should or shouldn't be successful from a good or product market fit and so forth is quite difficult. Obviously, we've got now 20 odd years experience, and we've got a really good idea of what are the things that you should be navigating, what are the things you should be concentrating on, where should you be paying attention to something now, and where are you paying attention to something too early, when are you paying attention to it too late. That I think we do really. So we've evolved into a company that probably the thing that we fall back on the most now is like structure and process, as far as how do we approach product development, innovation, and those things.
Yeah.
So much. How many engineers do we have? Do we do AI? Do we have the fancy latest
Yeah.
great piece of software or hardware, or do we use unobtainium 12? It's
Yeah.
actually the structure and the process and the approach to the startup, and guiding
I love that.
startups through
And
that.
you're genius. We're gonna move on into your journey. Really, this is a podcast about you as much as it's about SKEG. But your genius is that you're an engineer, you're an innovative engineer. I've sat in the room and listened to you. You have a fantastic mind to be able to articulate and see something even before someone else has seen it in the room. So this has really been your baby. You spoke of it as your baby, your child that has grown up and probably should have left home by now.
Absolutely.
Has SKEG achieved everything that you wanted for SKEG? If you look at this child that's grown up, etc., how do you feel about SKEG today, looking back over these 20 odd years?
You know me well enough to know that's an unfair question. As long as there's something I can make better, it's not done. So there's a list of things, as long as my arm, that we can do better at SKEG, but it doesn't mean that it needs to happen. I think my pivot point to when I said, when is it enough, or am I good? Like, can
Mm,
I move on? I think that's a better question, is to say, when did I realize that I can move on? And I suppose I've realized I could move on when I said, you know what, doesn't matter how much I try now, I have to try an inordinate amount harder to make it better than in the beginning. And now
mm,
for me, the return that I get out of my efforts is not that much
yeah,
anymore. And it sounds negative, but it's actually, I think, a positive, because I can go
yeah,
and fix something down there, but it's not going to make the bottom line better by 5 or 10 or 20%.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think sort of it's a lens. Yeah.
I
There's
really like what you say.
reasons,
Ted,
both reasons I think I've arrived, or I think things in a good place. Yeah. A conversation we had earlier around about founders and startups and so forth, is around like figuring out if you have if you're legitimate or not.
mm,
It's like this, the things that keep you up awake at night, apart from the operational stuff, like, hey, I've got to get that thing out the door and it's customers screaming and I don't have cash and stuff like that. But when you actually get, like, when the thing that actually gives you that cold sweats at night is like, have I invested the last 20 years in a business that's just a business of survival? or not? I mean, have I put my effort and my whatever, how good or bad or genius or brilliant I believe I am, but have I invested it in something that only has a right to survive, not a right to be great? And that is a really tough one. And when I think the ultimate measure of when you have arrived is when you go, either I've now realized that it's a business of survival and I'm just going to deal with it and I'm going to structure it so that it's a cash business, or I can actually move on and it can be something great, but I'm not the guy to make it great necessarily, but it
Wow.
can be great. That to me is I don't know if it was the pivot. I think we've discussed this a couple of times. There's been a lot of things that have culminated to the point where I go, hang on a second, I can actually move on. Half of them is you want to run away. Like, I mean, that conversation, like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I just want to stick my head under
Yeah.
I don't want to go to work. It's just going to be tough. There's another bit that says I want to run away because just the effort I'm putting in, I'm not getting the return on. But then there's also the side that it's supposed to be. It's like, hey, there's something here that we've put the seed in the ground. It's busy growing. It's like I can walk away from the cupboard and it's not going to fall apart.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you've said so many things. I wish we could pull on a lot of those right now. I love the fact when you look at the company and you say, is it just survival mode, or are we building? What are we building? What have I done in the last 20 years for? Those are really deep, soul searching questions. And so there was a moment when, for you, you realized that what was needed in the early stages of SKEG is not what's needed now. Something else is now needed now to take it to the next level. Tell me a little bit about that. What was it that started to make you think, you know what, there needs to be someone else or something else or some way of doing it differently to take it on?
So there's like two storylines that are out of sync with each other that I need to tell. So the first
Sure.
storyline is SKEG itself. So SKEG, we started in 2005. We went through the credit crunch. We came out of the credit crunch. A lot of things reset. But by that time, we had matured to a much wider product offering. We were now not just doing small little bits of things. We were actually developing product for serious people. We had serious customers. And in sort of 2012, 13, 14, even up to early 2015, the business just grew from like, I think in 1 year, we increased our revenue. We more than doubled our revenue in that year. And because we were just fighting for getting the work out of the door, all of that money, so the cost of the OE didn't go up, cost of sales went up per the project, but that's against the projects, but all of it just dropped down to the bottom line. And we went, man, this is like a really, really amazing business. So we went, hang on a second, we're really smart. We know, we've read all the books, we've seen all the tales about, we now need to make the business get systems in the business, get structure in the business, disconnect the business from the founder so that it has value, all those cool stories. It's taken us 10 years to achieve that, because the next story is the my story part of it. So the business realized all of these things, but this idiot couldn't transition. So this idiot went into the stage from 2015, 16 onwards, where we would grow, and we would hit what we believed was a ceiling, and then we would bounce against the ceiling, and then we would falter, and then we would have these projects that we couldn't deliver on. All sorts of bad things happen. We go through these cycles of profitability and basically just washing our face, and profitability and washing our face up till recently. Even that story is the story about me, not the story about the business. I only realized much later, after having a lot of very smart people tell me what to do. Like, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And they were all right. The problem is you have to listen to these people in order to get somewhere. And that's if you don't listen to them. Sidebar, I give lots of talks about innovation at startup worlds and all sorts of weird and wonderful places. And the one thing I always ask is which books do you read? Would you guys as founders and startups read? No, we read Eric Ries and we read this and we need the project manifesto. I mean, there's all these wonderful books. How far do you read the book? Why? No, we just, I bet you read the book till you sort of get, I got the story, the first third or maybe 60%, I got this. And then you just go off and say, because I know this, by implication, I'm going to use it and implement it. And no offense, none of us do. So I've read some of those books now for the third and the fourth time, and I go like, this is all right. Like, why am I not doing half of this? Why do I know this? I know this to be true. I know this to be right. And that's the story of me, really, by going like, when you get stuck in this mode where you're in your head and you're stuck, you realize that actually you're not hitting a glass ceiling. It's not about, I need to be more than 25. If I'm like, I have these conversations. If we just to 35 people, we have critical mass, and our HR noisy of this uncomfortable size of business to manage goes away. Well, it's true. It's a true statement that 20 to 25 people are really crappy to manage, because you just can't afford the management structure, and you just can't manage it in your head. So you go like, let me go back to 15, or let me go up. So you have all these conversations, but you put all these necessary conditions in place that if I can do all these things, then I'm going to. But then you start doing it and you hit these glass ceilings, and you go, and then eventually you realize, hang on a second. Whenever I get there, it's not actually about have I achieved that external goal, is I've regressed the business back to controlling the business, and like going, there's something out of control, and I go fix something rather than let it go through that process.
Yeah.
So I
love that.
with your help. Thank you very much. It wasn't about a ceiling. It was about cement boots. I think that was a big breakthrough for me. It was like, this is not growing, not because there's a ceiling, but this is not growing because I'm anchored and I'm not moving. And then you can go and read all the books about how wonderful you as a leader should be. And you can read all these things it's about leadership and it's about this, but you are who you are. You built a business because you were good at something at a point in time. And the longer you hold on to that, the longer you're just going to stay in that place. And
absolutely,
people have the ability to move through that and go, I can go from a founder, startup, make things happen, build structures and systems. But at some point in time, I need to either change or get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The vehicle that gets you so far is not the vehicle that gets you to the next generation. And to be a founder, to start something, to take an idea, your one paycheck left, and you borrowed machinery, and you start something. Those types of people are very unique, special types of people, right? Special. We're the 1%ers in the planet. But then to expect that same set of strengths that could make you do that can then start to build systems and processes and people and all of that stuff that goes with it. Well, there's insanity in itself to think that, you can be that kind of person. But we are the last ones to understand that, right? We're the last ones to believe, because we kind of have this hero mentality that we get them it all, just bring it on. And especially when you have Maximiser in your strengths, as someone on this call has, where you kind of think, well, if I just work harder, if I just find the magic equation, or I say it the right way, or whatever, it's all going to work. But there is also something very unique about startup entrepreneurs, is we operate a lot by our instinct, by our gut. We make decisions quickly. We can see things. And when we walk in a room, people take notice, and they become almost reliant on us to walk in a room and be the answer for their problem. And I know that when you want to multiply, you have to move from being the hero to the host, from being the hero leadership to being a host type leader, where you become the facilitator. Now, no one can start a business being the facilitator. So let's talk about this. And I know this is a live one where you're actually in this process now. How are you transitioning from instinct to systems? How are you building away from yourself so that people rely more on the systems and the principles rather than what Pierre Becker feels is the right thing to do?
The answer's got two parts of it. After 20 years, and listen to this, because this is the trap I fall into. I know exactly what to do. I know the systems. I know what the system should do. I know how they should work. I can automate and and codify this business in my sleep. It's really straightforward. So to me, that is not the challenge. But right inside there is the challenge, because now I need to transfer my instinct, my logic, my view of the world to people who are different to me. So now I'm trying to make the business just live without Pierre, but as if Pierre is there. And I'm struggling with that, really. I'm sitting and asking myself the question, how the hell does somebody sit with arbitrary knowledge, arbitrary experience in a corporate and achieve daily a hell of a lot more than I can achieve using the systems and processes that I go, but I've got these things. Why am I struggling to get somebody to do something in a certain way because the other guy can get it done? And I'm going, but then surely it's got nothing to do with if the system exists or doesn't exist, because I'm a maximizer. I can build the world's most awesome system for project management and welding and whatever you like. I mean, that's like, and I know it sounds arrogant, but after 20 years, I should be able to do it. But then why am I struggling to get somebody else to do something in a certain way or follow a process? It's not even in, and then I realized, but it's still because it's my process. It's not our process or their process. And that is really, really difficult for me at the moment because I've moved now into a position in the business, which was working okay. But I go like, if it works like this, then like we're going to shoot the lights up. I go like, hang on a second. I've just stepped into that trap again. I'm back at that place where I'm going, if I don't do this, if I don't put the system in place, then the business can't be as good as it can be. But if I do nothing, the business, or if I do something, I prevent the business from operating without. So it's like this thing that I'm struggling.
It's one of those places, Pierre, that I find lots of leaders get to. They know they have to build away from themselves.
Yeah.
They bought into the fact that they want to create orchards instead of apple trees. And they also are on this exit route where they say, I can't do this forever. But when they stand there, it's a lot easier just to jump in and just do, or just to give the advice, than it is to sit back and watch. People have to kind of figure some of this out for themselves, bang their heads against the wall. We were saying before we started recording, didn't we, that it would be nice if we could learn from everyone else's mistakes. But the reality is most times we have to make them ourselves, right? We don't. But you as the founder there's this time where transition takes place, where you have to step back, and it feels like the business almost goes backwards a little bit and loses some of its edge. But this is the moment.
Yeah. So I've got a thought about it. You used the word hero earlier, and like, it's not a hero mentality as such. I don't think it's that. I think it's that the hero mentality, or the like, I've been doing all these things and making them happen, and like by the grace of me, everything's like where it is now. We're not that arrogant, I think, but that's essentially what it looks like from the outside, which is why we can't exit, because everybody goes, oh, I'm going to tie you up for the next 10 years because without you, this business is worth nothing. And that's like the worst answer. Right. But what happens is because the other word for being the hero is you take accountability for the business and everything that happens in the business. As soon as you assume all the accountability, and you are accountable at the end of the day, but you assume all the accountability, you start removing accountability and you struggle to keep people accountable. So the twist that I'm learning, or that I'm struggling with, is, you know what? I struggle to keep somebody accountable. It's a flaw in my system because I just take accountability. I just take the responsibility and therefore the accountability to sort the problem out. And there lies a really, really difficult transition, because now it's not about all the cool stuff and the fluffy stuff that all the books learn. And but you have to keep people accountable. Yes, of course, I know I have to keep them accountable. But tell me how? Tell me, how do I keep them accountable? Because they've all just got to learn that I'm going to come and fix the problem. And now all of a sudden,
do you think
hold my arms and I go, sorry, I'm going to fire you because I'm not going to be accountable, but you're going to. And all of a sudden and that's not a trivial, that's like taking a coin and flipping it. That's 180-degree turn.
But it's also, what you're describing is a company that's also got to grow up with you. As much as, think of it like children, right? When they're young, you take accountability for them, right? They're not taking accountability for themselves. We always step in, and we have to take accountability. But when they become late teenagers, there is this transition that also appears. As a father, you realize, I can't take the blame for my son's actions here. He has to feel the weight of the consequences of that. But that's because he knows that eventually he's going to be leaving home and has to stand on his own 2 feet. So I think there's a dialogue that has to happen. And I know it's happened in your company, where the staff need to also understand that there's a shift there as well. No longer is Pierre going to step in and take responsibility for all the consequences. But now there's a raising of your leadership level, your maturity, and there's a want that needs to come for all the leaders in the organization. And I think we have to be really good at taking them on the journey as much as doing our own internal journey, because you have to step back and say, listen, buddy, you are responsible for that. And now I have to hold you to account. And that is difficult. It's also difficult because it takes time. And time is something we feel we don't have. And, we have to give them that time that we did. Here's a question for you is, how did your team need to evolve then? From hiring to leadership structure to support a decentralized SME. So what has been some of the things that you've had to do? How have you changed the structures within SKEG to support this journey that you're on?
I mean, I think the easy part of that is drawing a picture of what the organization should look like. Those are very easy. There's lots of books and advice and stuff. And I mean, even ChatGPT can tell you what your business should look like. And that's like a first step is like, what is it supposed to look like? And then go like, okay, who do I now, the old right people on the bus in the right seats kind of conversation, those kinds of things. It isn't necessarily always a conversation about just hiring A players. It's first a conversation about going, who are my C players? And am I my hero taking accountability mentality? Am I ending up with a business full of C players because the A players were told me to get knotted and have moved on? And I saw that happen. I go like, hang on a second, why am I losing my good people? And no offense, like all the guys that should leave are still here. And then you go like, hang on a second, clearly this is a really bad place to be. And I mean, lots of startups can tell the story, I believe.
Yeah. Over and over.
I end up with the not so good guys, and the good guys move through. And then so it's a little bit of a bad thing. The benefit that you have of the family teenager parable is teenagers go through a rebelling stage, which sets you up for that. Okay, well, now we're not parent child anymore, or that thing where now you're trying to be an adult and I need to temper it and let you be an adult. In a business, you don't have a rebelling, people just leave. So you don't go through that fighting you kind of thing. Specifically, if you're this person that started the business. Remember, you called it the 1% kind of thing. We unfortunately have, and I mean, I'm saying this because I've been accused of this, not because I think I am this, but we have strong personalities. We solve problems. We fix stuff. We do these things. So you're either gonna squash somebody and they're going to just move on, or you're going to squash somebody and they're just going to go, okay, and they're just going to be the C player instead of the A player. So that's why I said it's not about a glass ceiling. It's about cement boots. It's about, we really, as you said earlier, what made us build the business is exactly the dark side of that same coin that's making us break the business.
Absolutely. And there's a moment in time when you suddenly realize that, you realize that, I'm no longer the solution. It happened for me in my previous company. We were having these 360s, and the CEO that I'd hired came and did a 360 for me and told me basically I was really rubbish. I agreed with him.
My CEO tells me very clearly all my faults.
Yes, exactly. I don't think I'm part of the solution anymore. And then there's this moment we decide in our minds, okay, you know what, we've got to build this next generation up. I know that in your case, same as me, you've hired a CEO and you now have this C-suite structure developing. You have a Manco type structure also developing, and you have all these processes. You can't no longer just walk in the room and go, oh, we're going to do that and we're going to do that, because now there's a process to do that. Let's talk about this next step then. These processes that are in place, etc. How are you going to successfully exit from this business in such a way that it leaves it stronger than it was before? And how are you also going to detach your identity from this business? Because that's usually the biggest hindrance to founders and starters, because essentially it's their baby and they can't leave their baby. Talk to me about.
Let me talk to you about that second bit before I talk about the first bit.
Cool.
So with a lot of conversations with yourself and our exco and people I found that, and I think just spending some more time outside of the business with friends and stuff, I found my identity is my personality, who I am, my strengths, my whatever, my wonderful sunny demeanor or whatever you want to call it, is me. It's not SKEG. And that was for me, like it was just such an easy and natural transition when I realized, hang on a second, like what I do for it's not going to go away when I'm disconnected from SKEG. I can do it for anybody. I can go help somebody fix their farm. I can go like I don't need SKEG to be my fulfillment or my, yes, it was for a long time, but it was, I mean, you also told me, if I recall it, like it was like overnight something changed. And
Yeah.
it's difficult. There was a whole bunch of little things that fell in place, but I realized, you know what, who I am and what my strengths are and what I can do. I don't have to do it on this massive corporate scale to get fulfillment. I can go and just help a guy like farm his game farm and fix a thing or do I don't, you sort of, I mean, all the introspections and stuff, like all you have to figure out is like what floats your boat, what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And as soon as you realize that, you're going to go, hang on a second, I don't need the business to fulfill that. The business is, so it's not, so the conversation turns around. It's like, it's not your baby anymore. It was a mechanism for you to be happy, your needs and things and desires and stuff. And that to me was it's like, it's not my baby that I'm nurturing. It is a thing that I'm using to get joy from.
Yes.
If I can get that joy somewhere else, then I don't need this. But if I can put this in a place that I don't want to just drop it now, because I mean, I put 20 years in it. I want to get a return. It doesn't have to be financial. I don't want to just throw it over the fence and blow smoke up its butt and then it looks good and get a pile of money for it. That'd be fantastic if I can get a pile of money. But it needs to be sustainable and good, because otherwise the joy that I got from it is I need to build something or fix something or make something better, and it needs to be sustainable, if it's a small thing or a big thing. So for me, SKEG was that. So I would have failed if I move away from SKEG and the cupboard falls apart,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
bookshelf. The bookshelf. Sorry, it's the bookshelf.
Bookshelf. It's the bookshelf. You remember? I remember meeting with you, and there was chalk and cheese. There was one day when you were like, "Skegs for life." But Skeg and I are one. And then almost the next sense of shift, and you said, "You know what? I realize that Skeg is here and I'm here, and we're not connected." And there was this sense of almost a new vision, like there's another life outside of Skeg. You know? And I really do believe until one gets to that point, it's impossible to really to make this move, because I think you make it and then you'll come back, you may come back, because you have to get to that point of who I am is not SKEG in itself.
Yeah, and I think when I listen to all those people talk to me over the last 10 years, present company excluded, everybody told you that you have to disconnect the business from yourself because it makes value. And your mindset about that is, oh, I need to get a CEO and I need to put systems in place and I need this machine to be able to work without me. But nobody talks about your need for what the business is giving you, and that you have to disconnect that, because all those things you can go and read in books. You don't need consultants to do that. You can write them down. I mean, a 22-year-old in varsity can tell you what a business needs to look like to not be reliant on a single individual. It's trivial stuff. But the big breakthrough is like, what are you getting from the business that you now need to tether? It's not what the business is getting from you. Those are easy things to write down and cut the tether. But it's what are you getting from the business that you are holding on to?
Yes. I love that. And you nailed it beautifully, because you need to understand that, we need significance, we need security, we need variety, we need personal growth and love and connection. And a lot of times we get all that from our company that we started, sense of significance. They become our friends and community. They become, and it can be very scary to try and think, well, why would you want to detach yourself from there? But true maturity is when you start to realize that my security isn't in our company, my security is here, who I am, knowing who I am, and in my own immediate family. Variety can come outside of my work in where I go and exploring new things. It must be found greater than just a group of people come into a company. But I know for you, it's a whole world for you to explore where you can help change people's minds and hearts in a whole new chapter. So we're kind of running towards the landing of the plane here. And so I'm going to ask you now, I want you to think about if you were in a room talking to people at that's 5 or 6 years into their businesses, um, what advice now would you give to them, knowing that every founder ultimately comes to this place where they feel like they're no longer necessary to the machinery? Remember the 1,000-day principle that we talked about. People get the idea in year one, they build it in year two, and if they don't exit, they tend to destroy it again. So they feel like they are in the building stage, constantly be in the building stage. And the people who are the most successful understand exit before they need to destroy it. You've got a room full of people. Most of them are startups. They've been going 5 years or so. What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's difficult. Firstly, I would tell them it isn't a 5 year in and out. Most of the guys who I've seen who've climbed out and have done a good job and have built something, it's like a 10-year journey. That's the one thing. But hey, if you're lucky and you can hit it out of the park in 5 years, you can. The guy who started a business because he's got domain knowledge and he knows his stuff and he can do stuff. It's not just, he didn't go and buy a sweets factory and then sold the sweets factory off again. But like the guys like me who build things that I know how to build and that I'm good at, like hands-on people. It's typically you there is a maturity that you get. But if you're like me and you sit after 20 years and you're frustrated that for the last 10 years you've just been rinse repeating and not getting out of this death spiral, that is something. So what I would tell them, there's so many things that you want to get across. I mean, so many, like, get over yourself is the first thing. Get over yourself. Listen to people like Dave. Like,
Yes.
go listen to somebody. Let somebody else outside of your system. Don't listen to your family. They're the last people to. They'll your family will always tell you what you should be doing depending on the state of the business. If the business is in a bad place, no, go get a job. If the business is in a great state, no, we're not making enough money. I mean, there's lots of those things. So this is a messy thing to tell somebody else, because you like, go, but I can't, there's not a thing I can tell. There's not like a thing. There's not like, oh, here's a little recipe. The one thing is get over yourself. Know yourself, know what you're getting from the business, not what the business, what the business is getting from you is easy. You can write that down. You need to write that down. There's a lot of things you have to do anyway. You have to build systems. You have to get good people. All the books tell you what to do. But the thing that I realized is, figure out what you're getting from the business. And is it so important that you can't untether yourself from that? You don't have to do it now, but at least understand that. Don't lie awake at night because of good and bad. Please, just like, your business is always going to go through some good times and some bad times. The good times aren't going to last as the good times. The bad times aren't going to last. Yeah, there are black swan events for your business, but they're typically not external. If they are external, then you maybe didn't have a legitimate business, or your business is way too fragile. There is always opportunities, all that stuff. But those are good stuff. I think the thing that you need to figure out is, like, what are you getting from the business?
I love it. And I love this phrase.
Defining you rather than all the things that the business, all the things that from you that is defining the business. I mean, no offense. I mean, you just put three arbitrary people out of the business in a room and you let them write it on the wall and they'll tell you, and you go and build systems to disconnect yourself. That's not the difficult bit. That is the easy bit. Executing on it is quite difficult because the problem, I think, inherently, specifically founders who hold on like me for too long, who are too involved, who are struggling. I struggle probably more than anybody I know with this, of that separation and letting go. It's like, what are you getting out of the business? It's giving you the significance and the joy and the love and all of those things. It's giving you that, and figure out how you can get it somewhere else, because that's what's going to be the cement boost.
Absolutely. I love this. We are definitely going to do another book. All of this story. There's so much wisdom in you, Pierre. And I know that you have been a mentor to so many people over your 20 years. And, I know there are hundreds of people out there that would love to thank you for what you've poured into their lives. And I do think that this journey of leadership is as much about a journey of our own internal leadership, understanding who we are, not taking ourselves too seriously, but yet being consistent and disciplined, but also keep asking the bigger question, is it time? Is it time now for me to exit this vehicle? Is it time that it needs somebody else or another type of leadership? And it constantly checking, am I too attached? Am I too attached? And I think, those are really great questions. Staying curious, staying objective, having outsiders come in and ask those different questions, having mentors in our lives. I think those are also really, really important. That we are always continually learning and being challenged, and there's new things for us to do. Well, I'm loving being on the journey with you, Pierre, and it's
Thanks.
been a joy and delight. And I
No,
know
I
we're
must
not at the
thank
end
you.
yet.
Thank you.
But no, it's been a delight. And anyone that's listening in, if you want to contact Pierre, I'm sure that he will love to hear from you. And the idea is that we support one another as we bring this journey. But Pierre, I want to say a huge thank you for being a guest with me today on this podcast. And I know this journey to exit is going to be profound and life-changing, and it's going to bring you great joy. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thanks.
To everyone, thank you for listening, and hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Dave.